files, and so their guys, when they go out in the field to start house construction, know what to look for.
Yep. Okay.
The part that I have not been able, I've never done what you did the other day, where you start from. Let me open one of these. Here's a lot. Uh, Says it can't open the file.
This file not found. Did you maybe change the name of the folder or anything?
I don't think so. But let me go to the open file thing and go to Shepp. Job.
I see what my.
I changed the name of it.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, I've got.
Okay.
Now, what you did the other day, I've seen you do it a couple of times, but I have no idea how to do it myself. Where you actually, I don't know what the merger plat's doing there. Oh, I know why. The path that remember I contacted you a week or so ago about the path that 2021 when I was opening a template uh, didn't know where the path was.
Right. Okay.
And you told me how to do it, but I was unsuccessful. And so what I've been doing is cheating. I've been creating a job in 2020 and then opening it in 2021 and working with it.
Okay.
But this job in particular, and before we leave today, I would like you to set those paths for me in 2021.
Sure.
But I need to be able to bring this job in. I don't know what all that stuff is.
That is, if you look at, if you click on one of those things, does it select?
Maybe I've got to get in there first. Whoop.
Okay, yeah, now if you do it, okay, so now, yeah, it is actually inside the viewport. So it's in the model space at someplace, but that is where this viewport is looking at that rotation and at the location of where those things are in your model space. Okay, now the layers might be different. You might have some layers frozen in this viewport that you don't have over in the model space. You know, I just don't know how that would look. But if you go back to your model tab, see, that's not looking at the same thing. Right. But you could at some, you know, there is a place in that model based on what we're looking at on the merger plat tab. There is a place where those callouts exist. Now, they might be.
Well, I think I did go in and freeze some layers.
Well, it won't be. Yeah, it won't be here though in model space. It'll be over inside the viewport.
Oh, okay.
Because when you freeze it here in model space, it's frozen everywhere across the board. When you do it from inside a viewport, it's only in that viewport where it's frozen. But what it is, let me get this. I'll request some remote control, and then see what do you get it? Let me I'm gonna save this view and we'll call this one just working. It'll be fine. So we put it back. Now if I do a zoom extents, you see that's gone way where there's a couple of things out in here that I can see just by dots. There might be something down, you know, way down in this part of the world too. I don't see that anything is getting selected there, so maybe not. So let's see what we have here. We have, that's our current working view there. Here is All right, so that apparently is what you're looking at in your model space right here. Okay. So those points are in this file. They are in this DWG file.
Oh,
Assuming
they're on, wow.
well, I mean, it's okay. It doesn't hurt anything.
No, but I wonder
It's
where they're coming from. Why are they there?
I don't know.
What are they from?
It could have been from a previous job, or if you did a draw locate points and those points were in your file, because what you have in your coordinate file are, first of all, the coordinate file is 200298 lot 52. That's the coordinate file. So that's probably the correct one. It sounds like it is. And if I list those points, so what do we have here? We've got, those are the points. They all look to be somewhat in the same area. Base one's a little bit out of
Well, base one's
range.
right at my house, and that job's about 10 miles away.
Right, right. That's what I said. It's, but then these are all, yeah, they seem to be all in the same neighborhood.
I'll tell
But
you what I think is happening. I think that my templates have, even though we saved them as templates, I think they have coordinates in them from
they
whatever
might,
job that we saved.
yeah, they could. But see, these are points one, and then the average up through say 20, and then a couple of 200s and a base one. Now, what we're looking at,
Job in the model.
yeah, so what we're looking at here, for instance, 13A, that's not in, yeah, that's not in. Here's your base, whether that's the same base or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But these points are not actually in your coordinate file.
right.
These, so you may well be right. Those points might exist in that template, in which case, you know, they just come on for right. So they're in the drawing. Now, if you recall, if you ever wanted to take points that are in a drawing and put them in your CRD file, you would do something like update CRD file from drawing. This command here, also available up under the coordinate file utilities.
Yeah, I don't think I want those points in my CRD file.
Right. So then all you would need to do is just simply select them and delete them.
Okay.
Or you could probably also do that from update the drawing from the CRD file, and that there's a switch in there that tells it to erase any points that are not in the CRD file.
What's the copy merge CRD file?
Copy and merge means, let's say if you go out, you know, you go out and you're doing your data collection out on a job, and you name that coordinate file, you know, field points, field points 210315 or whatever. Okay. And then you do some work with that, and you go out, you know, 6 months later, and you've got some more survey points that you bring in as, say, field point update, and it's in its own separate coordinate file. But you want those points all in the same file of whatever name, either putting one into the other one, or you know, you could actually merge them to a new file. So basically, it's just going to ask you for a range of point numbers from a source file that you want to copy into a destination file. So yeah, it's just a way to do exactly what it says, to copy or merge a coordinate file. And that way it lets you, you know, keep a master file current that might be, you know, some people actually name and keep separate a daily coordinate file, or you know, at least the times that they're out gathering coordinates, each of those files, some people keep those as separate independent files that do not have anything in them other than what was collected that particular day. And then they'll merge them all into a master file that they're working with back in the office. So just a matter of preference. I've got one other poor client up here that I can't seem to get him to grasp some of this, but you know, like he keeps like one giant massive coordinate file that's got like everything he's ever done in it. And
Oh,
I keep,
wow.
yeah, and it's because he doesn't, you know, he doesn't take the time or effort to switch jobs on his data collector. So he's carrying all that crap around, and it's sort of dangerous. But you know, so far he's managing to.
Well, and I would think very confusing at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, what I
Yep.
need to do for this particular job is to create an 8.5 by 11 drawing at a scale. Um,
Okay. So now let's get rid of those. Now all I did there was just select them and delete them. Okay. So they're now, and again, the points that you have, these are the points that are in your CRD file. So, and these may or may not be in the drawing up there where we were looking.
yeah, they are.
But yeah, so now if I do another Zoom extents, now see, when you do a Zoom extents, there's still,
Something out there somewhere.
yeah, well, right here is where our work is, okay? But there's still something, and it's probably based on the way this thing zooms, it should be in this part of the world. So if I do a crossing selection, aha, here I found it, and it looks like it's a straight point. And it's
Oh, I bet
just
that's
up.
the base. I bet that's the
No,
base at my house.
no, actually, well, I mean, it might be where that is, but if you see here in the properties,
Yeah.
it is just a CAD point. It is not one of Carlson's points, which you would see that point and then 2 blocks.
Okay.
It would say all 3, and then that would say point and block and block. So what happens, that I've noticed this, is Carlson sometimes when you run a command, or in particular if a command gets interrupted, it has done something that is generating points, it's working with points, and it throws these points out here in the hinterland. So if I watch what happens when I put this cursor right here in that grip, look down at the coordinates on the bottom of the screen. See, that point goes exactly at 0, 0, 0. I also look at when I select it here, down below here, they're at 0, 0. So that tells me that's one of those little artifacts that it throws out there. Now there's 2 ways to do it. Obviously, when we select it like that, we can find it, but there's sometimes when it doesn't select. And I went back to do a Zoom extents, and I see it out here. All right, so I can then zoom back in, or I can type view, and there's that one I just had, current. Let me double click it. I should be able to. Oh, it's not current, but working is what I meant, not current. Yeah, okay. So there's the view that I saved earlier, just to restore it. Now here's a nice command when you can't find those things that are out there, and if you're sure that there's nothing out there that you need, you know, like if it puts something there and accidentally, and you don't, and you can't seem to find out where it is. As long as you're sure that this is actually all that you're supposed to have here, then go up to your, I'm going to let you do this. Go up to your edit menu.
Well, do I need my base station in there?
No, I mean, you don't need to have it. I mean, if you want to put it in there, you can put it back in a minute. But so what we're doing is we're going to
Well,
go to
actually, it shouldn't show up on my screen because I've never brought it. I've never done anything with it. It's there.
Yeah, right. And remember, and it was included in that group of those other points. There was a point in there called base.
Yeah.
Whether it was that base station or not, I'm not sure. But But anyway, I erased all that. But now if you go to here and go to the erase menu and then choose erase outside, and what that's going to do is it's going to go out there and find well, first of all, see, read your prompts. Pick the first corner. Yeah, so make sure you're going to show it a window. So you're going to click once right in there. Go up and click in the upper right. Yeah, right there is fine. And when you do that, it's going to get rid of everything else that's out there. And now when you do the zoom extents, which, is double clicking the wheel on the mouse, then it should, it's, see how it now zooms to this and there's nothing else in the file.
Yeah.
So that what they did, that erase outside, it erased that point that was down at 0, 0.
Well,
okay.
It erased 287.
Yeah, it found 287 things not in the current space, and that is stuff over here in paper space.
Okay.
Which, let me get outside of that. So it found 287 things over here. Now it didn't erase them because it wasn't in your current space. That's all it's reporting on.
Right.
Okay. All right. So now we need some 8.5 by 11s of, well, anything and everything, and in this case of this little of this parcel.
Right.
Okay. So a couple of things here. If you want to set these things up to do 8.5 by 11 parcels, little plots, then there's a couple of things that you're always going to have here, and that would be like a north arrow, and you could put a bar scale around, but the scale would be different for different parcels,
right?
Which is fine. Let's see up here what we have in terms of this point. I'm just going to move.
Actually, we don't need that. We can erase that. I also have it in the coordinate system, but it's not going to be shown on this drawing.
All right, so we'll just take it all and delete it. All right, now you're
increase the lot numbers too. Well, I guess we do that on the drawing, not here.
Well, you can do it either one. If it's on the lot, if it's done here, then when you put it here, it will show up when you get around that lot. But when you draw the stuff like the lot number and stuff here on this sheet in paper space and not inside, if you're not inside the viewport, then that's just like drawing it and putting it down on this piece of paper. If you should then shift your viewport so it's looking at another spot, then that lot number does not go with it. Whereas if you do it inside the viewport, or same thing, doing it here, then wherever you position that viewport, that lot number, whatever information is drawn here, stays where it is in relationship to these lines and points. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now, so the first thing we do so we've got some points, and we've got our bearings and distances. That's basically what we want. So we'll, let's see, do we have, yes, we have a north arrow over here, and I'll show you what we'll do with that to always match up, because we're not going to always necessarily be at this same rotation with north straight up. You might have in this case, it probably would be fine. That would fit on an 8.5 by 11 fairly nicely with north straight up. Or, sometimes you might have a long skinny lot that's, in a particular orientation that you want to line up with the paper. In fact, you might even rotate our view a little bit so that this long line here is straight up. So north then would be, over here at that same angle that is. But I'll show you how we'll do that in a second. So let's go now to the merger plat.
Look at my seal down there.
Yeah, I see that. And I see also here this.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look. That is, see, something is changing something. And that's in a block. So if I double click that block, let me see here. And if I look at right, those are the individual attributes. If I click right, if I click down here like I'm going to edit that and then click, I'm trying to click that dot, 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 it's not letting me. Well, let's see. Anyway, what I'm getting at, and I can't. It doesn't bring up the attribute definition when I do that in place editing. So let me try this. If I select it and then open the XREF for editing. No, it won't let me do it that way either. All right, if I do this, if I edit my block attributes, all right, that's that, so that's not going to work. If, excuse me, if I edit the attributes one at a time, let's say, sure, edit attributes of which blocks with these names, with this text. Okay, so now that is the marker. It's huge, doesn't need to be, but it's of this 0 probably. And you see it has a position and angle, it has text content, style, color, height, etc. So my guess is, because that keeps changing, is that there is a somehow or another the style keeps getting redefined. And here's one called, it's called standard. So the style of that text is standard. And I say of that text, and by text I mean attribute. So if I take a look at your text style standard, let's see if it has somehow or another been changed. And I see that it has a height of 0, so that's okay. So it hasn't done that. That hasn't been the problem. So what else could be the problem? Now, here's one that we don't even need. Change and delete. All right. All right, so let's see if we can diagnose this a little further. We've got, it may also be an annotation scale issue, because right now our scale, our annotation scale, well, right now annotation scaling shouldn't.
It's interesting that both seals that look the same are distorted and almost look like the same way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. And that's because each of those is a block. See, if I select that, that is a block. That means all of that stuff's gotten put together and something redefined it and made those attributes too big. Now, let's see if when I'm over here, I'm at this scaling of 1 inch equals 100 feet. Let's see if I make that 1 inch equals 50 feet. I don't, I don't think, and if I do a regen all, yeah, see that? The annotation scaling should not have any particular bearing on paper space other than I've got to make sure here, so make sure I stay at a 1-to-1 scale. So, all right, so that's fine with this one. So now let's find out. That's a block, that's a block, that's a block, that's a block. Those are all blocks, and part of the block definition, there is something in it that makes this change, whether that is a text size or something. So I'm going to explode this block. I'm going to select it. If I can manage to do that. There we go. Select it. And I'm going to explode it over here on the right-hand side. I'll use that stick of dynamite. And now I've got this as an attribute. And you see those those ghosted text sizes?
Yeah.
That's because of annotation scaling. And it's showing you the different sizes that it could be based on the values that it finds in its in annotation scaling. Now it says, however, that it is not annotative. Now we should make it annotative. And when it's annotative, we would give it a paper text height, and I gave it 0.08 instead of 1. It, for whatever reason, said 1. Excuse me. And so now I've done that for the first one. Now let's see a couple of other things that I've got going on here that I noticed. Down here where I had that scale, that text height, I said 0.08 and it just said 0. It had like no decimal places. And that comes from the units setting, which should, see that right there? That should be set to however many decimal places you want to see things. Typically we would do 2 for like survey. Now there are other places where you can see that number out to further decimals than just 2, not just in labeling survey measurements, but that's, you know, you're going to want to see at least 2 of them. So if I make that 4, that'd be fine. And let's do angular surveyors. Yep, and that's fine. All right, so now let's save that. And by the way, let's do a save. Now, to answer your question, well, what could be changing these? I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know what is causing this to change, why those particular definitions. And if I select that, see that has 2 definitions up here. Let's make them both annotative, and let's set the paper text height to 0.08. And I got some more right in here. I don't know where those, there's some, see that thing that says name? Yeah. Don't have any idea what that might be. Let's see, that is, those are, some pieces of text that are the same color as the screen background. That's why they don't show up. But anyway, they're just placeholders. So those are, let's see, if I select similar, how many do I have? Just those three. All right, so I'll get rid of those. And I'll do the same thing here for this one. And there's 4 of those. That's all right. Now let's see if we can get back to these. If we make all of these annotative, and if we set their paper text height to 0.08, that's obviously still way too large.
What would happen if we just deleted that and created another bar scale there?
Well, we could do that, but what I don't want to do is put it back and then have it blow up again because we do it. So I'm trying to figure out why it's So when I turn this on, they show up, and that means toggle the annotation visibility. So that turns the visibility off for those annotative objects. But still, so now what is all right, so that is, let's see, let's take each of those, and it needs an annotation scale. And why does it think it's this? Not sure that's going to work. Let's see. Yep, that worked. All right, so then that means this it's not an annotative block, but that block is composed of attributes that are reacting to the annotation scaling. So let's do this one more time. Let's go back and change these to not be annotative, and let's set their height to be 0.12. And then we're going to redefine this block, which was called bar scale. And these are the pieces that made it up. So now let's watch what happens. When I redefine it now based on this should update and should keep from happening. For whatever reason, those attributes are reacting to this annotation scaling. I don't understand why it would have done that, but that's what's going on. Let's see, I want to also do One other thing here. I want that line. And this actually doesn't even need to be a dimension. Uh, I can't explode that. Let's see. I just need that to be a piece of text. Well, just leave it. Let's leave it as it is. We can make it 0 when we use it. All right, so let's make this bar or make this block. So if we say block, and we're going to call this block bar scale. Now remember that already has been defined. So it's going to warn us about that, and that'll be okay. So we're going to call this one our bar scale for plats, for instance. We don't, and you don't have to put a description here, but anyway, so I'm going to say, I'm going to specify a base. Actually, I'm not going to specify. I'm going to pick this base point that I'm going to use, and I'm going to make that right here's my 0. Let's see, let's go over here and make it right in the middle of the bar scale. All right, so that was the base point. And the entities that I'm going to want to use are not only the drawn elements, but also the text and these attributes. So I'm going to grab these, and then I'm going to pick these in order. And there's a reason I'm doing that, is so that when it comes up and starts to ask us for this information, if we were to prompt for it, they will be in order. They go in the order that they're picked. And now right here is this behavior, whether it's annotative or not. And I'm going to leave it off of this annotative scaling just so it comes in exactly like we want it here. We will scale uniformly, allow exploding, all of that stuff is good. We'll say okay. Now it says the block bar scale already exists. Would you like to redefine it? And here's where if I say yes, I don't know why I did that twice, but in any case, it did. And this then should be there's 2. Oh, I see what it was. It was not 2 of those, it was 2. So if I take this then and copy, and put it wherever, and this is going to be, and we don't know what scale this is yet, but if I double click this, once we do know the scale, I can see those values. So I want my 0 here, and I'd say, let's say if it's a 50 scale plat, then this first dimension would be, here I would say 50. And this third Remember, I went 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would go 50, 0, 50, and 100. So I would just simply make that one 50. And this one then 100. And we would go from there. All right, so that has redefined that block. Now let's redefine this block and see if we can figure out what the heck is going on with it. I'm going to put it right in here and explode that. All right, so that's now all exploded. If I select that, I see it has this weird height of 0.8438. So I need to know what that height is supposed to be. So if I select similar, oh, it's also getting all of these. All right. Let's see. I'll do that and then select all of the text. Problem is there's some text that's going to be different sizes. All right, so no annotation. A height, let's make it 0.08. All right. So that is probably good for this one down here for professional surveyor and this stuff in the middle, but your name might need to be taller. Let me see one. Let me save this down here for a second. You should have a drawing somewhere that this is correct in. So while this one is still open, go and find me one of those drawings where your scale is okay. I want to see it just to make sure I can match it.
Okay.
And when I say go and find, I mean go and open it for me so we can look at it. Okay, there we go. Now I want to take this, which is a block, and if I simply copy with the clipboard, and then if I paste it, it's going to try to redefine it, which will be fine. So if I paste here, see, that's when it does this, because why? I have no idea. Let's see. What if I paste it? Still. Will it let me do this? I don't know that it'll let me do it this way. Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, it would, but it's not what I want. All right, let me try this. All right, so that, and the one that works let's copy that from say here down to here, and we will explode this one. Okay, so now it's no longer a block. Aha, I'm starting to get an idea as to what's going on here now. Let me also take this, copy, and let's explode that. And that is not been standard, but okay, that'll be all right. But this text uses a style called $0 $0 standard. So that's part of what's cooking it, is that these styles, as we keep sharing these things back and forth and back and forth. See, here's this, and there's, right now it's a height of 0. That's the way it should be. So somehow or another, it's tripping up over this annotation setting. Huh. Well, let's get it straightened out. All right, so let's see what these are. All right, so your name, the text that makes your name, has a height of 0.13. Let's set our units to be a little more aggressive. So that now has a height of 0.1350. I get my little notepad here. So I'm going to say name height equals 0.1350. Interior text height is 0.850. Okay. Now is this professional surveyor is also 0.1350. Okay. Now this I no longer need. I actually don't even need this anymore. I'll just close it off and let's do this. So if we take all of this, let me see. I'm going to select by circle. Is this right? No, WC. Center of a circle here. There we go. Perfect. That text is standard. It's not annotative. Its height is 0.085. Okay. Okay, so that's still 4. All right, so that's good. Now, then this text and that.
Doing that because it's been exploded.
Say again. Say that again.
Doing that because it's been exploded.
Yes, it's individual pieces because it's been exploded. So, so, but what I need to do is to change the properties of all of those. I'm going to try to select See, select by fence. And then let's change its height to be 0.1350. But you see those ghosted things, I should not be seeing that right there because that is not annotative. That should only show up on things that are annotative. So I don't know why that's ghosting. Well, anyway, let's set these like we did those. And their height was also 0.1350. And then we will call that, we're going to redefine this block as title block, or I'm sorry, is PS stamp. So don't really have the center. Let me see. I had a point here. And don't worry, that won't be in it. I'm just, all right, so I'm going to say block, and that's going to be PS stamp. Pick a base point will be the center of that circle. Select entities will be everything here less that. Allow exploding, uniform scaling, and say, okay, it already exists. Yes, I'll redefine it. I have no idea why it asked me that twice. All right, so one thing here, that's one item. There it is there, there's that. That I no longer need. I no longer need this. All right, so there's that. Seal is good, the scale is good. Now somewhere we have that PS stamp.dwg out in your system.
Well, it's on all the templates for sure.
Yeah, but we can redefine it in all of those. I'm just wondering if we have if we've made a place. So I'm going to go out here and I'm going to look for, I don't want to look in quick access. Let me see. I'm going to look. It should be on your computer. Let's look for PS stamp .twg. Let's see if it finds it sometime today.
It's probably going to be on the desktop. That's where I put things.
Yeah,
I know that
yeah, maybe.
you shirk in horror when you hear that.
I do. But I doubt that this would be there, because this being a block that I want to start keeping a library of these things that are in a specifically named place. So I think if in any of our past sessions I had you create this and then save it out as a separate drawing, I probably prompted you to make your own folder to start storing some of this stuff in.
But I think it would be on the desktop.
But if I didn't, we may have just left it defined in these little template drawings. See, right now I'm thinking about, so what I want to do is to take this block that's called PS stamp, that is put together of all those little tick marks and little ovals that make the braid and all those individual pieces of text. I want to create a drawing file of just that. And then I want that to be available to insert in any drawing, whether it came out of the drawing template or not. And I'm not seeing it show up anywhere here on drive C anyway. And I don't have time to wait for Windows to decide to work. So I'm gonna just turn that off. And let's do what's called a command called wblock, which means write the block. And the block that I'm going to write, I'll choose it up here at my source as a block. I want to send out now because we've redefined. I'll do it also for North Arrow revised and for bar scale, but I'm going to do it for PS stamp right now. Now, where this is going to go by default right now is to this folder. So I want to find a better location here. Let's see if I go to this place. That's
There's an image
Shepp.
reference file there.
What image? No, that's more for pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
But what I want is to see, we should have, we've got this, we've got under Carlson. We got this support and user. Let's see here. Where it's putting all of this stuff. Program data. It should be all right. Program data, Carlson software, Carlson 2021 under here, but I don't. It's PDF 3D. See, we got, yeah, see, that's not.
Okay, just got a text message from my client. They said if I could get the sketch to them for lot 52, which is the one they were working on it very quickly, they would appreciate it.
Okay, we'll grab that up here in a second. Get it wrapped. Let's see. Instead of putting it there, let's go right here to your C drive. You're crossing projects and settings. And then I'm going to make a new folder called blocks. Let's call it CAD resources. And so inside of it, I'm going to make a new folder called blocks. And inside of it, I'll keep the same name. It's ready to go. I'll say save. And okay. All right, so now that's out there by itself as a single drawing. I'm going to also do the same thing with north arrow revised. It's going to go to the.
That was bar scale.
What's that?
That wasn't the north arrow, was it? That was the bar scale.
Yeah, I know. I'm just also putting this in here so you've got it in the library, just that I saw its name. So I'll repeat that and now choose the bar scale, and that's going to go in that same folder called barscale.dwg. And so you could do that for any number of these that you might want to keep out separately and see if there's anything there. There's a flared in section that's left over from a pipe, some inlets and such. You probably don't need to worry about any of those.
No,
looks like everything is good to go. So you now have a few drawings, and they're just drawings of, say, that seal, the bar scale, and the north arrow by itself over in those folders that you can always go back and use and refer to. All right, so now
you just copy them from those folders.
Insert. You would go to draw, insert, and you'd say from file, and then you would browse and let's see, where do we have it here? Carlson project settings, CAD resources. And so here are those individual things. And when you insert a DWG into a DWG, it behaves like a block. And in fact, it is a block. It becomes a block unless you explode it when you bring it in. So if I insert, say this, well, let's say this one, well, any one of them doesn't matter. If I try to insert this from the file, and I tell it, you see, it's right now as if I'm doing a block. And if I go to insert it, you see what it says? It already exists. Do I want to redefine it? Well, at this point, I'll say no and just escape because it's already in there. But you could be in a drawing that did not have that block defined, and that's how you get it into this drawing.
Okay, let me look at a drawing real quick where I know there's a similar problem. It's just a drawing that we just worked on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So now, what you want to
that from there and then
no, You don't even need to delete it. I would not delete it because what you want to happen is this new block that's going to replace it. You want it to go right in the exact same spot.
Okay.
You could do it the way you just said, but to make it go in the same spot, we're going to do it this way. So you're going to go at this point to draw insert. It's all the way toward the bottom. And make sure you say from file. You have to get it fresh from the disk. If you leave it up there where it says block name, then it's going to take the old definition. There you go. And then you're going to always look in Carlson Projects, Settings, CAD Resources. Yeah, that's where you want to look. So go ahead and find that, say open. And at this point, just leave it like it is and say insert. And then when it asks you if you want to redefine it, say yes. And now just press escape. Oh man, what on earth? What on earth? Oh God, Mike. Let's see, text styles, standard, no height. It's not annotative. Any of these, none of those are marked as annotative or with a height. Boom. All right, if I select the block itself, it tells me it's not annotative. All right, try it one more time. And I know it's going to do the same thing. Yes, redefine, which it did. And as soon as I click down, huh. Wow, that is some strange behavior. All right, well, let's save that. Now, if you happen to know another one, do that same process. But remember how I told you to press escape?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say don't escape. Go ahead and find a place just out here on the side and click it so that it goes.
That was the only thing that you did different, wasn't it?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so close this one.
Yeah, I saved it. It's already ready to go. All right. So, all right. So let's get this one on an 8.5 by 11. Okay. So let's actually, I'm going to come back to this guy and I'll just copy it and we'll call it 8.5 by 11. And all right, so it's not going to let me drag it. I will move left, one tab position. Okay, so there's my one that I am copying from. Here's one I've got. So I'll leave that one over there in case I need to grab anything from it. But you're not really doing any kind of, you're not doing all this setup and labeling and stuff like that, right? You're just putting this on here. In fact, are you putting titles and things?
Well, I'm going to put my company name and I'm going to call it a sketch plat. What is a sketch plat of? Or I'm just going to call it a sketch. I'm not even going to call it a plat.
Okay. So I'm going to do that and then that. I'm just getting rid of a bunch of crap out here for a minute. You probably don't, you're not gonna,
Nope,
are you gonna do,
nope, take it, get rid of that. No,
all
sir.
right,
Okay.
and the seal as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's that. We will leave that. We'll leave this just for information. We'll leave the scale, and we'll leave, all right, so we'll leave all that kind of stuff. Now, what I want to do though is to redefine this page.
What was
And
that?
this,
You know, page what manager? Page
yes,
setup manager.
exactly. Right click, page setup manager. Now, we're going to make this an 8.5 by 11. Now, this particular file, I'm going to go back here to model space. I see that's going to be well suited to having, you know, it's going to line up on the page like this, sort of vertically, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to make it in portrait mode. So I'm going to come here to my page setup manager, and I'm going to modify that. I will make sure that's all the same. Display and styles. So I'll choose this paper size now to be an ANSI. It can be expanded. That gives me the biggest or the smallest margins, so the biggest printable area.
Okay.
I'll keep the size the same. I'll leave these offsets the same for now. We may have to adjust them just to make the thing center. And I'm going to, instead of being landscape mode, I'll switch it to portrait mode, and we'll say okay, say close, and we'll see that's now what it's going to look like. Okay, so that looks okay. This excuse me, would be and it looks like our offsets are close. They're not exactly set up correctly. Let's see, this, that's at 0, 0, 0.
Where are you reading that coordinate from?
When I select this and I hover the mouse until it snaps into that, I look down at the bottom. Yep. Now, why is it? Oh, okay. Don't know why it keeps, it won't give me the 4 decimal places for whatever reason. All right. This is the part. Minus 42 and minus 23. That's the part that everybody in the world wishes Autodesk would fix, and they just won't. This 8.5 by 11 page, if I say 0 offsets, then it puts the origin of the printable area, which is whatever that sheet is minus its margins, and different printers and different things have different margins. So if they would make it so you could actually set the 0 point out here, you wouldn't have to fiddle around with all of that offset business. But anyway, they won't do it. So let's go ahead and put this back. And that's why that was close, but not exactly. So that was minus 0.42 and minus 0.23. So, you know, and what I did was, you know, I had to play around with putting this thing in different places and changing those numbers just slightly to get the best fit. And anyway, crap you won't have to worry about. All right, so then this frame right now is whatever that used to be before, a D size or what have you. So we're going to want to do a rectangle from 0, 0 to at 8.5, comma 11. Now what that means is, and I just drew it here, I'm going to select it there. That's what I just drew.
Okay.
From 0, and when it asked for the next point, see, it asked me for the first corner, I typed in 0, 0. It asked me for the next point, I said at 8.5, comma 11, which means relative to the point I picked for the first point, which was 0, 0, go 8.5 units to the X and 11 units to the Y. Now, in this particular case, because I started at 0, 0, the at symbol is unnecessary because 8.5 to the right, 11 up from 0, 0 are in absolute coordinates also 8.5 by 11. So I could have left it off in that case, but that's how that works. Now, the reason I wanted to draw that was nothing more than to be able to move this marker to that corner. So I'm going to move to there to there, okay? And in fact, I can take that and that thing that I just drew, and I'm going to delete it, which I just did. And I'll also do the same thing with this one. I'll delete that one. So now I've just got these two little corners. If I ever need to go back and redefine my page, that gives me that 8.5 over and 11 up. All right, so now let's rearrange the other stuff that we will need when we get here. So I'm going to take this and let's move it in just so we know where, oops, we know where our print margins are going to be inside that dashed line. So I'm just going to come in a little bit and I'm going to do the same thing for this upper corner, or I'll take this edge because this will keep it to be able to generate that line within the bounds. All right, now I've got it sort of, kind of. So if I move it from here to the center of 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to move that from its center to 4.25, comma 5.5. That didn't go so well.
Where are you moving again?
I was just trying to center this up. So I moved it from this center point to the center of the page, which didn't work so well because, and I should have realized this and didn't, the margins aren't even. So anyway, we've got everything that we need here. I just want to get maximum use out of the piece of paper. And the only reason I'm really wanting to print this at all. It's just so that you've got some kind of little visual reference, like a little frame on your page. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to take this, and this is going to be our view into our drawing. So I'll kind of shape it the way I want it to be, leaving us a little bit of room down here for things like this. So is that the block? So I'll take that and move him. We'll just sort of put it down there. We'll put this stuff over here. Let's see. I'll put this one. Let's try this separately. And then well, nope. Apparently there's two things there. All right. And then this. Let's see if we can't. Come on. Okay, there's many things there. We probably should have made them into a single unit at some point. It's not going to fit exactly right there, so maybe we'll put it over here. I will turn off snapping. I'll put that there. We'll take this and move it here.
Let me ask you your legal opinion. Do I need to
Yep.
change my copyright date there?
Oh, I guess. Yeah, I would think, because that's when this is getting done. We'd also want to, let's see. I don't know, line that things up. So yeah, we'll change that to be 21. Is that?
Let's change the job number too while we're at it.
Yeah. See, that is a field. Drawing properties. No, guess it's not. All right. Yeah. So what?
229A. Capital
229 or 20029?
20029.
Okay.
A, capital A.
Like that. And then your March 9th.
Let's make it today's date, March
Okay.
15th.
17?
15.
Yeah, okay. I thought you said 17. That's why I was just questioning. I knew it was the 15th. All right. And we'll leave the scale alone for a minute until we figure out what it is. All right. Now, inside of this, I'm going to double click. I'm now, and that was rotated because that's where we copied it from. It was rotated. So I'm going to simply do I'll do a plan command and set the world coordinates as, so basically that's north up. Okay. Now, while I'm inside of that, if I unlock that viewport, let me see, I get out of it, select it, and make sure it's unlocked. Display locked is yes, and it's set to a specific annotation scale, which we're going to turn off here in a minute. So we've got the display locked is no. So I'm going to go here, double click inside it. So to get it the way I want it to be centered, and then now I've got some things you can see that they're sort of, you know, in need of some regeneration.
Right.
So we'll do a regen. Oh, looks like that didn't fix it. It's the annotation that's causing this. So let's go back outside a minute. Let's see what to do. I also want to, or if I go inside, I'm going to set my crosshairs back with this twist screen. Let's just restore due north. Oh man, what's going on? UCS world. Okay, now my crosshairs are back. That's back. Now, do you want to keep this such that north is straight up on the page, or do you want to rotate it so that this line is straight up on the page?
Oh, north. I mean, it's so close. North straight up is fine.
Okay, so we won't worry about rotating our view there at all. Now, the only thing we need to do though is to let's figure out what nominal scale will give us this at the largest view. Okay. So I'm going to, what do I've got? I've got like 360 feet here, 300-ish feet there as part of an 8.5 by 11. Let's call that 500, or I'm sorry, 5.5 inches is half that page size. So what would that be? If I did this at 1 inch to 100, that would be 3 inches there. So let's make it 1 inch to 50 and see what that does for us. So I'm going to double click outside of it. I'll select it and I'm going to change its scale, and that is its standard scale down here, or well, it'd be custom scale or standard, not the annotation scale, not yet. We're going to fix that in just a minute. So I'm going to now come down here and find a 1 inch equals 50 feet, if there is one, if there it is. And if not, then you can use a, see that says 1:50. Yeah. That'll still work, because what it is, and it's another thing I've got a beef with Autodesk about, but what that scale is saying is that one drawing unit here, and by here I mean in paper space, being on a drawn piece of paper, one of those units, which to me, being in English units here, I'm in inches, equals 50 drawing units on the ground, which in our case are going to be feet. Okay, so that's why it works. But truly, 1 inch equals 50 feet means 1 inch equals 600 inches. So the true ratio scale is 1 to 600, not 1 to 50. But, you know, be that as it may, that's what we're stuck with. Now, to get that to fit at 1 inch equals 50, I would have to make this a little bit bigger to catch this corner, or I could rotate it up so that this line kind of, you know, goes more vertical and fits. That's another argument for rotating. Or I could say, well, 50 is just a little too big. Let's make that 1 to 60, right? So we'll find that. And if you don't have a 1 to 60, and I don't happen to see one, you can create your own. So you would choose custom. And what is 1 to 50 is 0.02. So 1 to 60 then is 0.0166667, which is not convenient for me here. Let's see if I can add. It won't let me add it there. Let's try this. Save that and see. Let's see. Boy, I never can. Find that.
What are you looking for?
That. I was going to say, I wanted to be able to make sure I've got everything out there I can see. My current graphic system is find this annotation scaling. Let's see, I know I can do it here. Yeah, see, that's why we wanted to add 1 inch equals 60 feet. And let's put these. That means 1 paper unit equals 60 drawing units. See, that's what I was talking about. And that's why it gives you that as a ratio. And it's not correct, but that's what you get. So now back to this. I want to change that. Now that I've made that scale, I'm going to choose. There we go. So 1 inch equals 60 feet will be a proper scale that we can have here. We'll go ahead and make that 60 feet. We will, for now, select this and lock it. And I'm going to just do that over here. I could have done the same thing in its properties. We're going to fix this bar scale. So to fix the bar scale, if you simply select it, you could come down here and fill these numbers out like this. That might be the easiest for you to remember to do. You could also double click it and change them here. Yeah. Okay, so either way. And if it were really properly done, it would ask you when you insert it the first time, but we're gonna just let it ride. So 60 feet there. 60 there, and 120 there. Okay, so that's done. The scale here is 1 inch equals 60 feet. That's done. Now we need to get the text up here to behave itself. So we'll select this again, and we'll say the annotation scaling we need to set to match that 1 inch equals 60. So we'll do that. So that puts the sizes down, reassociates everything where it's supposed to be, and you should be good to go. Now you may want to you're going to have some, you may want to call it, put another piece of text that calls it, lot 52 or whatever the client's name is. So, rearrange those as you see fit, maybe put that here or shrink the size of these text things down a little.
Yeah.
Right now that is what, 0.12, so it's pretty hefty. That one is 0.15, so you might want to consider doing that. If you, and here's a trick. You could take this, change its size, take that, change its size. They're two different things. Or select them both, which I did by a crossing, and I'm going to scale this. Okay, so I'm going to come over and find my scale icon, and I'm going to scale it based on, I'm just going to say this point right here is going to be my anchor point. And then you can do that graphically. Or you could say, well, I had the little text at 0.12 and I want to make that 0.08, for instance. And that would be one of my options over here on the command line is R for reference. So if I type R and hit enter, the base scale was 0.12 was what the smaller text was in here. So I'll say that. And the new length I want that to be is 0.08. So that now has moved that down to be this size. And then you would just move it to be wherever it needs to be, okay? Same thing here. What was that? I don't have any idea what that size is there. I think we made that 0.1 or maybe 0.12, but that's 0.08. So now be careful there. You don't want to scale this one because you want to keep this. That's actually an inch. That really is an inch. So you want to keep that to be an inch. All right. We had one other thing. This is our north arrow that we could put. Let's just put it over here for the moment. And now, does it need to have that on it?
Yep, that's what it is.
Okay. So we're going to take this and we're going to change its rotation from being whatever that was the last time we used it to making it straight up. So we're going to select everything here. We're going to rotate, and that's this guy right here on the right. And we're going to rotate it following the prompts, the rotation point. So we're going to say right here in this middle point, so the end point of that. And now, just like we did the scaling, we have an option that's in standard AutoCAD, it does say reference. This one says base angle. So we're going to give it a base angle. And that base angle went from, we could type it, or we can say from this point right here out to the tip. That's our base angle. And now we show it what angle we want. Okay, so we specify the new angle, and that new angle is 90, because you know, the east direction is the 0 mark. Now, let's see how big this thing is. Just in general, it's about 1 up to from there to there. Say it's it's about 2.5 inches long. That may be a little big for us just because this is a smaller piece of paper. So we'll select that and we will say scale. We'll find the scale there. And instead of it being 2.5 inches long, let's go from that point. And again, we'll go reference. So the reference distance, we're going to show at that point to this point. And let's make that, what, 1.5 inches long? Would that be big enough, do you think?
Yeah.
So 1.5, there it is. And now, boy, and I'm sorry you get all this ghosted mess, and that's because of this annotation stuff. Poor old Autodesk, they were late in the game to annotation.
Is this Autodesk or?
Well, it was Autodesk at one point, and then when the IntelliCAD people have to try to mimic AutoCAD software, they have to code in all of the warts that that AutoCAD came with it. All right, so now, before I get panicky and say, where did all my text go? I'm gonna make sure I do a regen all, which meant that, all right, some looks like they are missing some things here. Let's see. They're not missing, they're just showing up. Ah, that's because I turned this viewing off. All right, so let's leave that viewable stuff on. That's this little icon right here. It says toggle the annotation visibility on and off. If you say turn it off, that means you can't see things that are annotative. That's why you do see these and that and this, and those went away, but we want to see them. All right. So rearrange your what you call it, these things, your attributes, your point attribute descriptions.
Should I make them smaller?
Say again?
Should I make them smaller?
You can. And you can make you can make these bearings and distances smaller too, but that's probably good size for that.
Yeah.
You just might want these to go smaller. And so to make those smaller, Mike, excuse me, what you want to do, and I'll let you do the drive in here, double click inside your window so that you're in the model. And now you want to go to the points menu and you want to resize. So you pull that down and go, yeah, resize the point attributes right there. There you go. Okay. And now it's asking you a few things first. What method to use? Do you want to go, if you say scale, it's going to ask you, you know, twice as big, half as big, whatever, based on whatever it is. Now you could say scale or you could say absolute if you knew an absolute size. So you need to answer that question first, whichever way you want.
I would say scale.
Okay. So now what's the multiplier? It's offering to make it half as big.
I would say half is too small. Maybe
Okay.
0.75. What do you think?
That should be, I think, good. All right. And now, again, another question. Do you want to scale the symbols, the labels, or both?
Symbols look pretty good.
I think I agree. I would say labels only in this case. So now also select the points from the screen group or by point number. So you have to tell it how you want to select it first. There you go. Now pick each one of them till you got all 4 or however many you're using. Yep. And there you go. All right, so and if that's still too large for your preference, then simply rescale that again. And then, excuse me, then I would just move those attributes to make sure that they're either, you can either move them with a leader, but when you move them with a leader, then you have to adjust, where the arrowheads go and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it would.
Why does it always give you the option of rotating that after you move it?
Well, actually, yeah. So what happened there? Let me see here a second. If we let's undo. Shoot. Let's undo that. All right, now redo. Oh, I see. All right. To resize, scale 0.75, labels by screen 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I miss that one?
No, I don't think so.
Doesn't look like they've scaled very much. There we go. Had to do a regen for whatever reason now. Oh, I see. All right. Let's just do this. One of them, this one maybe, these got scaled. This one got missed. I went back and redid it again. So these got scaled again. This one, so it's goofy. So let's try instead. Let's resize those point attributes using an absolute. So at point attribute and symbol size this time. So that would be a 0.08. Let's make that 6 and see what that does for us. Labels by screen here, 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 and here. There we go. Now, when you go to move this attribute, and that's why it gives you a chance to rotate it. Did you do this command?
Yeah.
All right, so you're moving the point attribute and you go to pick it, and now I click the spot and it asks me down on my command line now what rotation. So the reason they do that is so if you needed to, you could, orient this to line up with things on the page.
Okay.
Or part of the drawing. Now, if you don't want that to happen, if you don't want to do that, instead of using that command, which is a Carlson command, move point attributes, just select the attribute and grab it by the little indicator here. Don't grab it up here in the center where the point is, because that'll move the point. You just want to grab that little grip and move this to wherever you want it to be, and then press escape and all of that stuff will go away. All right. We also want to take all of these points. So I'll select one, I'll select similar, and I'm going to bring those to the front. And the reason I want to do that, of course, is because I noticed those lines went and met in the middle in the corner. So I want to make sure that that wipeout is over top of it. All right. So that's that. And which is the bar that was set? The short one or the corner one?
Short one, corner one falls out in the road.
Okay, so then this, you might want to bring above that.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. All right, so that looks pretty decent. Now, here's a consideration that you might run into on some of these. I'll put this over here for the time being. And you look at that and you go, well, it's sort of, I've got all this space over here and nothing over here. I want to sort of center that. Well, all you have to do is remember that this is locked, so you can't really do anything with that unless you unlock it, move it around, and then go back and relock it. And there's a couple of ways of doing some of that. I can select the viewport itself after I'm out in paper space. I can slide these corners in like this so it goes in tighter. And then I can reposition the viewport and then make this, go out bigger like such. That's one way you can do all that without having to unlock it. But if you unlock it, I've still got it selected. I see in its properties display locked. Yes, I'm going to unlock it. Now you have to be a little bit careful here because, all right, so now it's unlocked. And if you double click inside it so that you're in the model space, if you roll the wheel or double click the wheel and do a zoom extents or do anything else like that, whatever you change, you're going to now be changing that 1 inch equals 60 feet that we so carefully set up. So, but what you want to do is with it unlocked and it's now, I'm inside it, it's bold and heavy face. I'm going to press and hold the wheel. I'm going to be very careful not to roll it. I'm just going to reposition it so that it looks like where I want it to be. I'll let my finger up. And if I see that I've squeaked the scale on it, I might do an undo and go back and redo it again or whatever. All right, so now
I'll tell that if you
just at the command line, you would just, and you would tell it by, you would physically see it change size. But when I slid it around, I noticed, and I was very careful not to let my fingers slip on that wheel. All right, so now I'm going to select the viewport and I'm going to go back and lock it. And you can do it here, or you can do it down here at the status bar. There's a little padlock. You can double click that either way. So I'll switch that to yes. And you may also notice if it does change scale, this number will no longer say that. It will say something else like this, whatever that current, that it'll say a custom scale and it'll be some number that's close to that, but it's whatever it wound up being after you rolled the wheel. All right. So anyway, that should do it for this guy, except for, like I said, if you want to put the client's name and or
I need to do that through the building restriction limits.
yeah, and the lot number, anything at all that you
area
that you need to add to it. All right, so so that's there. We'll save that. And now excuse me. So now just to, and I know you got to get that to him in a hurry, so I'm going to let you go in a minute so you can do that. But you said something about your paths that we needed to put, like those templates. I think we were telling it where to get the templates. So I'm going to go real quick to settings, Carlson configure, and we'll look at our startup settings. And that is going to by default use a template name, Carlson DWT, but I'm going to browse for it and I'm going to see that it's looking in this folder. This was the folder I was looking for earlier when I was putting those blocks out there, the surveyor stamp and stuff. Couldn't really find it. I see it's in application data roaming, not program data. It's application data. See, this is what I love about Windows. They decide to change stuff midway around the line, never tell anybody. All right, so that's no problem. And it goes in this folder called support, SUP. That's where that one goes. So that one should be okay. Now, the other thing is, if I were to do a new drawing, use a template, I go next. Now here it's looking for, and you see there's nothing showing up there.
Right.
So if I browse, see, I'm still looking back in that blocks folder. That's where we just last saved the blocks. So what this is that it's asking for this template drawing here, this is that's a CAD thing, an IntelliCAD thing only. It's not part of Carlson.
Yeah.
So, but to make that happen, we have to set that same folder. So I'm going to come down to settings, IntelliCAD settings, and I'm going to go to my, should be this drawing settings, I think should work, yes. The same as options, or you can even, typically you can right click and choose options, but apparently not with the Carlson software loaded on top. It takes that away. So now here's where we set all of this behavior, and that's going to be under paths and files. So here's again where we're going to look for blocks. And we might as well, while we're here, set that block. We're going to add the folder that we made when we made that north arrow stamp, the north arrow, the survey stamp, and the bar scale. And it went here in this thing called block. So I'm going to say okay. And so now what that means is if I go to insert a block, it's going, if it can't find it locally, it's going to look in this folder, then in this folder, and this folder, and this folder, and then in this folder. In fact, I'm going to move that up. Actually, I'll make it above this documents just so I don't want it, because I want it to find it before it gets to that. All right, so now I've set my blocks. That's all I'll set with that one. Drawings. These are exactly. Which one? What would this one be? I think these are just previous drawings that it's looked for. See, line type files, Lisp, printing paths. But what we want is here, we want to make sure, we're going to look under support paths to make sure that's correct. Looks like yeah, looks like that one's okay, I think. Under fonts 2021. Okay, yeah, so that one looks okay. And so now here are our templates, and right now it's looking under just plain old program files. Carlson 2021, ICAD 10 templates. And we should be looking under app data roaming Carlson software 2021 support. Okay. I think that'll do us. We'll say okay. And we'll try this new to drawing, use a template. There we go. All right. Now that's that's really nobody's fault, Mike, as to where that gets set. That's just the nature of way, you know, Windows software used to work, and then they changed where they put everything. And, you know, and I don't know how on earth the average user is supposed to keep up with all that kind of stuff. But anyway, there it is.
Right.
So now that should stick anytime you go into 2021.
Okay.
All right. And if it doesn't, let me know. We'll fix it next time. So it being, you know, 3:40, I'm gonna let you get this over to your client. And if you got anything else that needs to get looked at right now, let me know.
Okay, I don't think.
Okay.
I got to
What?
finish this drawing. I got to put VRLs and stuff like that in it.
Yep. Yeah. If there's anything you need me to help you with to do that while we're on the phone now, I'd be glad to do it. But, you know, I don't want to hold you up though by turning these into all these teachable moments. I'll let you get your production side done. So if you're good to go with that, then by all means, let's.
I think so. And you haven't sent me a bill in a while. Send me one so I don't have to take out a mortgage to pay it.
Okay. It's actually not much. That's the reason I haven't sent one, because I don't think there's much to it. We've only had a couple of little sessions. So, but I will. I'll gather it up and get it to you. Okay.
Okay, and there are a couple of other these that I need to work through. There's one I need to set up to draft a plat, and I need to get you to help me on that too, at least to set it up.
Okay.
But not.
Okay. Yeah. Just let me know. Send me a text or an email. Let me know when's good for you, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All righty. All right, sir. I'm going to shut this stuff down. If I can, first of all, I will stop the remote, which I've now done, and I will end our session. All right.